I'm Alex, and today you're going to learn 3 ear-boggling vocal effects that sound like this.
These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. No rush, go and move dumb. Back off, turn to peace and gloves. Now you gotta do a run up. My name came up a lot, it sounds.
Effect number 1 is a vocal delay we're going to do as a send. So create a send off of your main vocal track. This is also part of the main vocal track here. And you're going to automate certain words as delay throws. We just have H delay set up here, and here's what it sounds like once you're done the effect.
I don't die, I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice.
So how this works is you need to create a send from your track. I've already done that, and you can see some of these sends here, and you just make a new send, and it needs to be stereo, and you'll call it delay throw or vocal delay, okay? Once you get that stereo send, it's gonna look like this track here. And all we have to do is go to our automation and automate a word to go up to that send. So let's pick this word here.
Ride or die.
Okay, that's die. We're gonna highlight it, bring that up to unity gain, meaning 0. And now,
the ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ.
It's going into our delay. Now, the next thing to learn is what is actually happening in this delay. Here's what I got. It's H delay, okay? This is from Waves, and I'm actually using the dual setting. I'm gonna turn off the plugin after it so we can hear what only this plugin is doing.
Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike.
So we have a quick delay kind of on the left, which I've set to 1/8, and a slightly longer delay on the right, which I've set to 1/4. This is how you control it here. I'm going to go 1/4 note on the right, 1/8 on the left, and you can play around with these and see what works for your song, okay? Then what I've done is filter in the delay. So let's filter it out. I want to bring in a little bit more of a radio filter kind of sound. So rolling off the lows, rolling in the highs.
Now I got
Let's go over to this one. I did another delay throw here.
I got to roll with ice. No rush, go and move dumb. Back and forth.
Okay, so that's the difference once we add those filters. It sounds a bit more like a telephone effect. This is your feedback, how much it's going to repeat back after. That's up to you.
Ride or die. I keep boys by my side. CJ Ike. Now I got to...
I'll usually keep my feedback kind of in the first third, typically, of the feedback knob when I use H delay. Make sure you turn off that analog button, otherwise you're going to get some noise introduced into your mix. So these are the settings you're going to want to try for that sound. And then right after it, we have something called vocal bender. This is also from Waves. And by the way, if you want to try any of these Waves plugins, check out the description. I have links to all of them there. And this one's really interesting because what we need to do is create that formant shifted sound, that kind of pitch down sound. A really good example is this one over here.
Got to do a run up. My name came up a lot, it sounds.
So do you hear how over the course of the delay, the pitch and the formant are both dropping? All we've done is automate and draw in an LFO, which we're applying to the pitch, okay, and to the formant. Let me make this even a little bigger for us to look at, okay? Pitch at 50 and formant at 80. So let's do this together so you can know exactly how to do this for yourself. Here's a brand new instance of the plugin. I'll bypass the other one. What we're gonna do is click M1. This is going to open up one of these LFOs, and we're going to go to our pencil tool and draw in kind of a slope that looks something like that. Might actually clean it up, drop it off a bit faster, and that'll do a pretty good job. Now let's bring this M1 onto the pitch. You have to drag it and drop, and onto formant, drag it and drop. Now I'm going to make sure we have to turn it up, because if we don't do that, it's not actually going to kick in. You won't hear this LFO. So I'm going to turn M1 up to about 50, and the formant I'm going to turn up to about 80. Okay, you can play around with this, listen to what you like, and then I'm going to listen to my delay.
You got to do a run up. My name came up a lot, it sounds.
Nice. And now what I can do is also set the rate. So how slowly, so 2 bars is going to be slower, that this LFO is being applied.
Do a run up. My name came up a lot, it sounds.
Or on 1 bar.
Now you gotta do a run up. My name came up.
I think 1 bar sounds like the perfect amount. It kind of drops down, and by the time the sound and the volume of the delay is quieter, it's bounced back up to the higher register and is rolling down again. So it makes for this really cool background effect. Here's what my original settings looked like. Basically the same type of thing. You draw in that line, you can just keep redrawing it until you're happy with it, and then we get the effect that sounds like this.
Ride or die. I keep boys by my side. CJ.
Okay, and all I'm doing is now sending this delay to a little bit of reverb, which is just a reverb plugin here, Verb Suite from Slate Digital. That's the first effect. Let's check out the second that sounds like this.
Ice, no rush, go on, move dumb. Back and forth, push and shove. Make your peace and love turn to peace and...
Okay, it's kind of a distorted, weirdly modulating background vocal thing. So here's what it sounded like at the beginning, just the vocal that we have. Now, that was a little bit out of tune when I first got it, so I tuned it up with Melodyne, bounced that down into what we have here. I didn't want it perfect tuning because I actually want to add auto-tune after to give it this kind of a fake auto-tuney sound, just because that's the style here. And all I did was grab the tight correction preset here, and I had to set it into my key, and my key was actually E flat harmonic minor. So just make sure when you use Waves Tune or any kind of tuning software, you put it in the right key for the song. Here are my settings, and it sounds like this now with the auto tune or the Waves Tune. So we're going for that kind of tuney, kind of popping between the different notes type of sound with this on purpose. And after that, I'm just adding some compression with RVox. I'm not really going too crazy trying to figure out a perfect vocal chain or something for this because we're going to distort it and filter it in a second. So the main thing was just that it was compressed so it could be consistent. Next up is this from Waves, this awesome distortion plugin from Manny Marroquin. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so all I've done there is go to the distorted vocal preset, and I've dialed in. You can change how much direct sound is coming through. And the direct sound is just the source, right? And how much distorted vocal you're blending in, right? So this is the balance that I kind of ended up with. It was right around here. It's like this. Okay, so it's almost like we're running our vocal through like a guitar fuzz pedal or something like that. After this, we're doing a phone filter. That looks like this. So I just grabbed Pro Q3 and we're going with phone here, but you can really use any EQ and just make sure that you roll off the lows up until about 500, 1K, anywhere in that zone, and then roll off the highs up until around 3K, 4K. And you're going to get a sound that now sounds like this. Okay, before and after. And I've applied that to this entire vocal on the chain right after the distortion. Next up, we're going to add, again, an instance of Vocal Bender. This is something pretty subtle. It's just a fake vibrato preset. And all that does is it kind of moves the vocal around and just shakes it a little. We're not doing a big formant shift or anything. It just makes it a little wobbly sounding. Okay, here's bypassed. And on. Now that's really subtle, but you can hear it. It's kind of messing with it. Friend, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're here to help you get your best and most exciting mixes yet. Now let's get back to these vocal effects. Now we're adding Waves Enigma and just the default preset. All this is doing is adding some modulation. Kind of think of like maybe a flanger type of sound. It's that idea. That's literally just the default preset. So here's bypassed. And that was it on. And then our last thing we're doing is I am just putting it with a hall reverb at 51%. So literally half wet, half dry. You could just send this into a reverb as well. That might be best practice if you have a whole mix organized with reverbs and vocal sends and everything. This is just a rough mix here, so I just wanted to get it nice and wet on the track itself, just for now, so that we could hear what it sounds like. And here's what you end up with. Now the key for this one is to put it nicely into the background, so it's not too loud.
Ice, no rush, go and move dumb. Back and forth, push and shove. Make your peace and love turn to peace and gloves. Now you gotta do a run up.
Okay, so you can sing kind of a background vocal, apply those effects, and you're gonna kind of have this weird, trippy, distorted, filtered vocal in the background doing its thing. And let's check out effect number 3, which sounds like this. It's basically a lead-in going into our lead vocal, which is right here.
My name came up a lot, it sounds.
Okay, so here's what we need to do. We need to go to our lead vocal in the spot you want to apply this effect, and you're going to grab the word from the lead vocal that starts on the 1 of the beat. So in this case, it's name. We don't want to grab this first word.
My name came up a lot.
We don't want to grab we want to grab name. So whichever is on the 1, it might be the first word if the first word ends on the 1, but whatever lands on the 1, that's the one that we want to use for the effect. So I'm going to copy that, and then you're going to paste it. And we're doing, it's kind of like a triplet thing here, like 1, 2, 3. It's a syncopation, actually, is what it is. So we're going 1, paste, right? 2, I'm going to paste, and 3, I'm going to paste, all right? And I basically faded that in when I did it, just so we don't get any clicks or pops. And we have these that now sound like this.
My name came up.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. And I'm leaving a space of 2 little 16th notes between the first 2, and then 1 16th note before the actual first bar. Okay, so then it should come in, if you look, 2 bars before, right? So here's a bar, here's a bar. So basically, you put 1, 2 more 16th notes, you put 1 there, 2 more 16th notes, right? You put 1 there, 1 16th note, and that adds up to 2 bars, so you're coming in with name on the 1. Okay, so just make a separate track, paste those on, and then on that track, we're just going to do the following things. Now, these first 2 plugins were just the vocal chain that I had, just for the rough mix that sounded like this. Right, just getting it popping. Next on, we're going to put vocal bender, okay? And in this case, I'm not actually using the LFOs. I'm formant shifting this myself with automation. I've actually drone in the line in my DAW. See? So the way you do this in Pro Tools is you hold Control, Option, Command, and click on the parameter you want to automate. And there's a way to do this in every DAW, so just do a quick ChatGPT Google search for how to do it for your DAW. In this case, we can enable this parameter for formant shifting, and then that parameter automation becomes available here for us. And what I want to do is just draw in a line like this, where my formant goes down a few semitones. Right? Can maybe even do it a little lower. Be a little less. There we go. Maybe I want to drop it a little more. That's perfect. So just play around with it until it sounds good. And all we're doing is dropping that formant down. Then I'm putting on reverb. Now what you want to do with reverb is basically just open up the plugin on factory default and find reverse. This is the reverb that you're going to want to go with, is reverse reverb. And then you just need to blend in the wet dry. So here's what it sounds like completely wet. Right? Let's try maybe 60, 70. That's pretty trippy sounding. We'll go back to my original setting so we can hear exactly where I had it. Okay, so here on 80. So it's pretty wet, but it's a reverse reverb. It's a different kind of sound. So that's what you're going to look for. pull up a reverse reverb, and it's going to create this kind of pumping sound on the reverb where the volume kind of pushes backwards. It's a really cool sound. Now we're going to add Pan Man. This is just panning that all left and right, and it sounds really trippy, a little bit jarring. So make sure you got headphones on for that, or listen on monitors, because you have a left and right panning sound happening right now. Okay, and then the final thing we're going to do is a volume automation, where we cut it out in time for that first name on the lead vocal track, that first word, to come back in. So if I leave it in, it sounds a bit messy. Listen.
My name came up a lot of sounds.
It runs in the background there. We want to just do a hard cut right at the one. So that was just a volume automation move, and now we have...
Gloves. Now you gotta do a run up. My name came up a lot of sounds. More when I was not around.
If you're planning to use any of these Waves plugins in the future, check out the links I have in the description to each of these plugins. And when you do use those links, it helps out and supports this channel at no extra cost to you. And friend, if you like these 3 vocal effects, I have something I think you'll like even more. It's called my home mixing cheat sheet. And with this cheat sheet, you're going to get all sorts of common settings for EQ, compression, and possible effects you can use on vocals, but not just vocals, all sorts of instruments in your mix. It's a really, really handy tool to have. I'll have that link at the top of the description. And if you like this video, I think you're going to like this one over here. So go click that one now, and I'll see you inside.